So, Fola, I'm going to ask from your perspective, and Greg, from your perspective, both as an adult, right, sitting in like board meetings with your job, and from what you have observed with your children, what are the emotions that come up for us that really stop us from being able to focus and pay attention? And either one of you can respond.
Um, I would say, well, just in present time as an adult, emotions that would cause me to just, I guess, check out, for lack of a better word, if I am, anxiety, perhaps something that that has taken place outside of the confines of the board meeting. So maybe I'm worried about something that is not happening in present time, or angry. Perhaps I may have gotten into an argument with a friend or a close loved one prior to the meeting. Like you said, hunger can definitely contribute to your emotions as well. Even something as simple as lack of sleep. If you aren't well rested. As we as babies, you'll see a child begin to cry and act out, so to speak, because they are tired. So there are many different variations of emotions that can contribute to you not being present, or during school or a work setting.
I agree with all those as well. But I would also, for me, if I have like a fear about something that's coming up, just like that anticipation kind of takes my mind elsewhere to what I'm supposed to be focusing on. And I also would say like grief, like if something's going on or you lost a loved one or you're grieving something, that kind of can take your mind away too, because it's kind of consuming your mind and, just your attention is elsewhere.
Y'all brought out some really good emotions that we don't normally connect with our ability to focus and pay attention, like being sleepy and tired. Yeah, that can definitely take you away from, being present and being focused, and grieving. And it's not just, and I appreciate you, Fola, for calling out grieving the loss of a person, because there's a lot going on in our world today. And we see death and dying often, unfortunately. But you can also grieve like the loss of a friendship, as Greg was talking about earlier. You could be in the process of moving, right? And you could literally be grieving the old with the new. For example, if you're moving from one neighborhood to a new neighborhood and you have to kind of start all over again, all of those things preoccupy your mind and take you away from being present and in the moment. And you need those things to be able to learn. So Fola, as a student, are there some classes that you actually look forward to?
The class I look forward to is my humanities class. I think it's because when you have a genuine interest in the topic, I think you do better. So I do well in that class because outside of it, I love talking about human culture and just why are we the way we are. And I love asking questions to people. I'm just a curious person about that. So I think if we put it into class, then obviously I'm going to want to succeed, want to do better. I'm going to be engaged, asking questions, asking for extra support. So that's definitely a class I look forward to. All we do is have discussions and conversations. And that's just something I like to do, especially when the topic is interesting to me.
Awesome. So what I heard you say is that your humanities class, I believe is the name of the class, it taps into three of those lower levels that Maslow was talking about. You feel safe, right? I can only assume that your teacher is a part of that, and he, she, they have created a space where you feel safe. You have found your people there. You are sitting amongst their peers, and they are having this rich engagement in reference to why people do what they do and how they show up in different cultures around the world. And ultimately, what I heard you say is that it taps into just an innate part of you. Like you said that you were naturally curious, you like to have conversations, you like to ask questions. And so this particular class gives you an opportunity to do you. And so that's that self-esteem need. And so you look forward to this class and ultimately show up self-actualized, ready to learn, or as your best self, because that particular class gives you an opportunity to do all of the things that are important as far as math law is concerned, as it relates to learning. Greg, for you, when you were, in school, elementary school, middle school, high school, is there a class or a teacher that really stands out for you that you really liked? And if so, why? What was it about that class that you liked?
I can think of there were several. One of them, I'll say the classes that stood out to me the best or the most were the ones that I had an affinity for the teachers, meaning they were great teachers. I liked the way their style of teaching. I liked the way that they reached to me. I remember my art class in high school being one of them, or my pottery class, or even in junior high, my social studies class. And to kind of, like I said, to piggyback off what Foma said, it was those were not only were those subjects that I just found an interest in, just off the jump, but the teachers made it even more fun, or more made me want to come to class even more, because I was just excited to see what we were going to do for the day and how the teachers were going to teach whatever subject it was for the day. Um, and like you, so self-actualization is definitely important, because you are, you have an innate confidence about yourself. Knowing that you're going into this classroom, and you're good at whatever said subject it is.
Yeah, thank you both for sharing that. So I just want to stop and call out the fact that educators do make a difference in how our students go through their school day and how they feel. So as an educator, we literally just came off of Educators Week. Um, and on Instagram and Facebook, I was talking about how educators can make the difference, especially as it relates to letting their students know that they are seen and heard. So thank you guys for calling out the fact that though a student may be having a bad day, that if they come in contact with the right educator, with the right caring adult, that can have a positive impact on the student's day and improve how they show up in that particular classroom, ready to learn or not. I remember very specifically in college, I started off, and I'm going to emphasize started off majoring in biology. And one of the courses that I had to take in order to earn my biology major was organic chemistry. Y'all, first of all, organic chemistry was on its own felt like a whole nother language to me. But the professor, of no fault of his own, was not a native English speaker. He was from another country. And so on top of not knowing the subject matter, I did not understand a word my professor was saying. I hated that class. I dreaded going to that class, and I politely changed my major to sociology. That's just the truth of the matter. I said no. I could not do it. I could not focus or concentrate at all. Primarily because I literally hated going to the class. So I share that as an example to say that educators can definitely make the difference. I do want to just talk about the fact that there are things that you can do both at home and school to help you with your mental health if you were struggling. Now, Fola and Greg both called out some things. There are also some strategies and skills in the Kscope, KSCOPE Wellness and Education app that my organization, Kaleidoscope, has developed specifically to support the mental wellness of children and youth. We lean in. Young people have strategies and skills both at home and at school, right? So if you are a young person and you are finding yourself struggling with your mental health, just generally, there are strategies and skills that you can utilize, and access for free in the app. But we also call out strategies and skills that you can gain access to at school. I don't think that people know that there is or should be support for you at school for mental health. Greg and Fola, why do you guys think that is? Why do you guys think that people don't understand or know, I should say, that there is mental health support at school?
I think one being that mental health is still not very prevalent as it should be. I would say, typically when you think of available resources in terms of the health capacity, you just hear about the school nurse. So, and that is pertaining to when it comes to physical ailments, physical problems, like you're on the playground, you fall, you cut your knee, you can go to the nurse's office, she'll give you a Band-Aid. But now with mental health beginning, and I say beginning because it's still not, again, as well recepted as it should be. But with mental health beginning to now become more so advertised or move to the forefront, there's just simply not a lot of it. There's not a lot of mental health resources being made available in the schools. It's starting to just now become a necessity as opposed to, like I said, the traditional school nurse.
Thanks, Greg. And Fola, what do you think about that?
I think it's also how much someone would want to be helped. I think oftentimes, especially in young people, well, also adults, I think people like to deal with things on their own. Maybe have a fear of being invalidated, your emotions. So you're like, well, I'm not even about to open up. I'm just going to deal with it myself. And often suppressing that emotion or trying to, like I said before, talking to your friends, but that doesn't really get you anywhere. So it could be scary to reach out for help. And I think a lot of people don't do it for that reason.
Thank you so much for that, Fola. I agree with you. And that's one of the reasons why I took the time in the Kscope Wellness and Education app really to explain what mental wellness is, right? The fact that it lies upon a continuum. Some days you're going to have, great days. Sometimes you're going to feel off, but we start to worry as mental health care practitioners when you find yourself on the wrong side of that spectrum, meaning feeling down more often than you do up. The reason why I made sure that the strategies were there. And you can also access assessment. So if you as a young person, if you're feeling some type of way, but you're not sure if what you are dealing with is just worry or if it actually rises to the level of anxiety, you can take an assessment for anxiety, for depression, for if you think that you may be struggling with an eating disorder, if you think that you may have ADHD, all of these things, there are assessments that you can take in the app that will let you know, if your symptoms are mild, which means they aren't anything to worry about, moderate, which means you have some signs and symptoms, but not enough for us to call it a disorder, or severe, which means yes, you do have meet the criteria for this particular mental health disorder. the app does have assessments that will help you to identify that, but these are all things that you can do on your own, right, in your own privacy, so that you can have that experience, answer all the questions in an environment, at a time, at a pace that feels good to you. Because Shola is absolutely right. Like, people need to go through that particular process at their own pace. And so the Kaleidoscope app allows you to do that. And then if you decide that you do want to work with a therapist, there are licensed um, uh, mental health therapists in the app that can meet you where you're at and can support you along your wellness journey. Fola and Greg, have either of you had an opportunity to look at the app? And if so, what were your thoughts?
I've had the opportunity to look at it, and I think it's really helpful to young people, especially because, like you said, I think it does a good job of explaining what is mental health or what you may be feeling. And then that kind of validates someone's emotions. And then it also gives some things you can even do at home. Like, something I found that I thought was cool was, it said laughing. Like, you laugh all the time. And I think it's such a small thing, but it can have such a big contribution because you're just like finding a joy in your life, like even watching a video you like and things like that. And then I also saw another one, affirmations. And I think that's really important because you can use it as a tool almost, because problems are going to present itself in different ways. But if you have these affirmations, you can always just use it as a tool to combat whatever you're feeling. So those two stood out to me. But overall, I think the app does do a good job of giving resources to people.
Yes, I too was able to look at the app. And from a parent's perspective, what I like about it is it helps you, with your child, basically identify what potentially may be wrong with your child or what your child may be dealing with, because they are indicators of certain type of symptoms that exist. So if you and your child may not be speaking, or your child isn't comfortable with opening up about their emotions or feelings, you can rely on the app as a resource to kind of just give behavioral indicators of what your child may be experiencing. And then from there, thus allowing you to then make a decision on how you want to go about getting them help or helping them. So, yes.
Okay, thank you both for that. Fola, I'm glad that you called out the affirmation video that's in there, because though it's for children, that's my favorite affirmation song. I have to be honest. So I actually sing it to myself all the time. I know it's supposed to be for kids, but the beat, it goes hard. I like Snoop Dogg, so our little affirmation song in there. I listen to it and I say it myself. Greg, I also want to say a public thank you to you, because your son, Gabe, who is 9 years old, happened to be one of the first young people to actually go through and explore the app. And he went through it and did it seriously. He even took one of the assessments. No one helped him, guide him. He read all of the questions on his own. And I absolutely loved when he came to me and asked me what the score meant. He was so worried when he saw that he had a mild on the depression inventory. He asked me, do I have depression? And I had to sit with him and explain to him, no, sweetheart, mild means that you're not struggling with anything. But the fact that response, that he was really curious and wanted to lean in to find out, well, if I have depression, like, what do I do? So I really appreciate you, number one, for allowing your sons to go through it. And I appreciate Gabe for really, really taking the process serious and leaning in to those particular questions. So for young people who are struggling with mental health, there is support available to you. The K-Scope Wellness and Education app is absolutely free. all of the resources and the psychoeducation and the access to the assessments that we've been talking about, they are all free. I want to make sure there are no boundaries, no hindrances to young people getting the help and the support that they need. I also want to make sure, because as Fola was saying, because young people don't feel comfortable asking these questions out loud, they will go to the internet and Google. There's all sorts of information on Google, but that doesn't necessarily mean that is true, that is accurate, that is reliable, and is valid. So I wanted to make sure that our young people had access to true, accurate, reliable, valid data that they can use to help inform their mental health. And then if they needed the support, that there were mental health care professionals available to you. My organization, Kaleidoscope Wellness and Education Group, has also written a book. So we're right now, most schools have finished up the first quarter. The second quarter will wrap up in January. And so now, as young people and students and parents, you are starting to notice if your young person is struggling with a particular subject. Perhaps there are some things that are lingering from last year, and you may have some concerns about, okay, you know, my student is still struggling, or I am still struggling. If you're the young person, like, how do I get more help academically if I find myself, you know, using these strategies and skills at home and school and they aren't necessarily working? How do I get academic support? So I've also written a book called Help is Here, Accessing School-Based Support. It, once again, is free because I do not want there to be any hindrances to people getting the help that they need. It talks about how you can access some of those services that we talk about in the app, like the 504 plan, the behavior intervention plan, a functional behavioral assessment. The book actually gives you like some instructions on how to go about getting those services and supports in place for your school. So ultimately, if you are the parent of a young person who is struggling with learning because of mental health signs and symptoms, if you are a young person and you are finding that you're struggling at school and you aren't able to self-actualize, going back to Maslow, and you need help, if you go to, you know, any Ms.Dr.Kenya platform on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube, you can click on the link tree and get access to both the app and the ebook, because ultimately, this is what I do. I'm here to support you, and I want to make sure that you feel helped. Fola, I always end the Ms.Dr.Kenya YouTube recordings by asking young people, what can we do as the adults in your life, whether we are in the role of parent or caregiver, educator, or just a caring adult? How can we do a better job of showing up and supporting you, especially as it relates to your mental health and your learning?
I would definitely say having consideration and empathy for whatever youth you're experiencing. I feel like a lot of adults jump to conclusions or assume or kind of get upset at a child and be like, why are you acting like that? Or what's going on? Like, why are you have an attitude, without seeking to understand? So I would say seeking to understand in the child why they're feeling like that, and try to get to the root of it to help them out and make sure they feel supported. And yeah.
Okay, caregivers, educators, parents, adults, that's the second time Fola has put it in our place and told us that we need to stop jumping to assumptions and that we need to stop and ask some questions and seek to understand and not just assume. So Fola, I'm gonna take that redirection. I heard you. That was the second time. You don't have to tell me again. I got you. Stop jumping to assumptions. Stop, listen, and have empathy. I got it. I hope that all of the other adults that were listening along with me, that they got it, and that we, you know, take this information that you're giving us and that our other members of the Youth Council have given us, and that we put that into practice. Greg, you got it, so that when you meet with your 4 sons, that you don't jump to assumptions? You gonna lean in with me?
Yes. Yes.
All right. Well, thank everyone for joining us and taking time out of your day to listen to what it is that we have to say. In the month of December, I'm super excited. We're going to continue to talk about how mental health affects learning, but we're going to start to drill down on special populations. And in the month of December, we're going to be talking to an educator and a mental health care professional about the state of mental health amongst Black boys. So I hope that you will bookmark that and come back to Ms. Dr. Kenya's YouTube channel in December to talk about how mental health impacts the learning of Black boys. But until then, thank you once again for taking time out of your day. Hope to see you soon. Bye.